Streets and Scholars with FG and Alex Alonso. We're getting a little bit of a late start, though.
Yeah, no doubt, man. You know, that California traffic be something else, man.
No, it's all good, man. It's but there's a lot going on, man. I actually had a couple fact checks from a couple of our episodes. Episode 26, somebody asked about, remember I brought up the Board of Paroles and the CDC.
Yeah, and you were saying that they were separate entities.
Well, that's what somebody said when they hit me up. It was
Right.
separate entities. So I couldn't tell just by doing a search. So what I did was I just called up the CDC.
Hey.
And then I said, patch me into the Board of Paroles. And they patched me in, and I spoke to a secretary there, and she said that the Board of Paroles falls under the CDC.
Right, you had originally said
Yeah,
that,
that's what
though.
yeah. So she actually said that the Board of Paroles is headed by a lady named Jennifer Schaefer, and that Jennifer Schaefer is the warden of the CDC, who was a woman named Kathleen Allison.
Oh, okay.
So it's all underneath the CDC. It's not a separate entity like somebody tried to call me out the other day and say.
Right.
But what was interesting is that this whole system is ran by women.
Hey, man, you know, they starting to get it in.
And I'm wondering, is that a good thing? Because sometimes women are more sensitive to certain issues. But I remember I asked you a question once about female CEOs in the feds, and you said sometimes they come in there just as brutal as everyone else, right?
Doubt. And like I said, it was a female warden when I was there. You know, and Miss Banks didn't play, man. She was a tough cookie, but she was a little fair, you know what I mean? But, you know, sometimes we do have I don't even know what to call it. We have some kind of little notion that when the females are running, you know, especially things like prison where it's predominantly men, you know, I believe female can get in their emotions about certain things that men don't. But, you know, I don't want to just put that label on them.
Well, you know, female officers are less inclined to pull their gun out and shoot and kill people like male officers are. So I look at that as maybe women approach things in a way to try to de-escalate.
Right.
Where men, we ain't de-escalating, right?
Right. No, you got a great point there. Great point there. You know what I mean? And so yeah, that's a great point right there.
Okay. Then I said something the other day about the young lady that crashed her car into La Brea and Slauson, killing 5 people, unborn babies, the 6th person, and I said I never heard of someone getting the death penalty because now everyone hates this woman.
Right, but I remember you said that you didn't know if anybody had gotten a death penalty for a vehicular situation.
Yeah, you cannot get the death penalty for vehicular manslaughter, but you can get the death penalty for vehicular homicide.
Oh, okay.
Where you deliberately saying, I'm about to go run all these people over.
Got you.
I remember it happened here in LA in Santa Monica, maybe like 10 years ago. A dude just barreled through a crowd. He did it deliberately and he killed multiple people. Now, something like that, yeah, you can get the death penalty. But I'm asking the question, what she did, was it deliberate or was it manslaughter? Because although she got charged with the manslaughter, they also threw the murder on there.
No doubt, you know what I mean? And the more and more I went back and looked at the video, even after we had talked about it, I don't know, man, just the way that foot was on the gas, and then it seemed like she put her arm out the window or something. You know, it was so many different variations that I don't know. I'm starting to second guess, man. I think she might have been trying to, man, not kill somebody, but trying to harm herself or somebody.
Well, they in California, they got 3 levels of vehicular manslaughter. I looked these up, and the one that she's qualified for is actually you don't get a whole lot of time for, but they have a vehicular manslaughter for anyone that has that is doing it just vehicular manslaughter without DUI. Okay. So you're not drunk,
right?
But you did something reckless. That's a misdemeanor.
Oh wow!
1 year in prison, or if they want, they can charge it as a felony.
Right.
They call those wobblers.
Wobblers, yeah.
Yeah, you heard that term, wobbler?
Yeah, I have, yeah.
So it can go misdemeanor 1 year, felony 6 years. Now the second one is negligent vehicular manslaughter. That's also a wobbler. Misdemeanor 1 year, felony 4 years. And then an additional 3 to 6 if there are additional injuries to other people other than the person you killed.
Oh, okay.
And then the third one is gross vehicular manslaughter while intoxicated. That's a felony, 10 years in prison, or 15 to life if you have a prior DUI. So she would be the vehicular manslaughter without DUI.
Yeah.
And that would be a felony. So she would get 6 years for that. And I'm assuming 6 years for each person. Wouldn't you think?
Yeah. Or I don't think it's mandatory for the other people. Is it?
Well, it's up to, they want to prosecute her to the fullest extent.
Well, then, yeah, she'll rack them up. 36 years.
36 years.
Yeah.
But then they threw the murder on top of it. So
that may escalate it to something else.
yeah, that's more. It's more. But yeah, there's no death penalty for manslaughter, vehicular manslaughter. There's only death penalty for vehicular homicide, which I'm not sure if they're going to charge her with that.
Right.
So at this time, she's just going to deal with the murder and the manslaughter. But I don't know if that murder is going to stick, man. That's a tough one to put on there. But it all depends, because that video looks crazy, right?
No doubt. And then, like you said, they gonna go look at the other shit, her phone call, phone records, all, and and if she said anything crazy, you know what I mean. So they gonna get to the bottom of it.
Okay. On another thing, we spoke about that dude Guy Reffitt that went to trial. And we mentioned that there was another January 6th rioter going on trial.
Right.
So I looked it up, and it's a group of dudes called the Oath Keepers. You ever heard of these dudes? Mm-mm. The Oath Keepers. They're like they're a right wing Trumpers. They're right wing Trumpers.
You had it right.
White ring, right wing. It's all the same thing, huh? These guys are pro-Trumpers, and it's about 4 or 5 of them, and they decided that they want to take it to trial, man. What do you think is going to happen to these guys?
Oh, they going to get their head busted, you know what I mean? But at the same time, they have a point to prove. They will leave the appeals right opens for anything that happen later or come down the pipe. But hey, man, they could try their hand if they want to.
Well, they asked for a delay so that they can, I guess, strategize their thing, and the judge denied their delay, so they're going on trial next month, September 26th.
How many of them is it?
It's either going to be 9 of them or 5 of them. We're not sure because there's still some deals on the table. Mm. And for whatever reason, some of these guys, 9 members of the Oath Keepers. They're a militia group also. Right. So I could predict this one, man.
No doubt.
They all gonna get found guilty. And they all gonna get Guy Reffitt sentences.
Yeah.
So that's in federal court, September 26th. They're going to court, and I don't know why anyone would think that they shouldn't take the deal.
Hey, you know what I mean? They may have something in their mind that they feel they standing on. They may have some principles that they feel they rocking with. At the end of the day, after you rock it, you get that 6-7 years, go rock with that too, though. You know what I mean? So, you never know what their ideology is.
Next week, I'll break down their names and what they're looking at, because they're definitely going to prison, man. There's no doubt about it. What else here? I guess we can get into, YNW Melly update. This dude has a dental problem.
Oh.
He's got, what is it called? He's requesting a medical furlough to, now I want to know, how sensitive are the prison to these types of medical conditions, because it's related to his grill. Mm-hmm. He wears that diamond gold grill. Right. It's creating a problem on his tooth.
Right.
It's not like a natural health issue. It's a health issue related to the jewelry. He said it's creating a problem. He wants to go to the doctor. Mm-hmm. So he's got to do a special request. And do these requests usually get granted when you need to go to the doctor?
Well, he gonna see the dentist on site, and they gonna let the court know exactly what's going on. If it's something that's they can basically cut out, or if he refusing to let them cut it out or something like that, then they may not let him roll. But if it's really something that's bothering him and they can't do it there at the facility, they'll grant him not a furlough per se, but they'll go escort him to the hospital and get it done and bring him right back.
Okay, so some of this stuff could be done at the facility.
Yeah.
What do you think that some of the requests to go to an outside facility is sometimes a reason for someone such as YNW Melly just to get away for a little while?
I mean, you can, but you got to still understand, man, they don't just grant these easily. You know what I mean? They had a dentist in Lompoc named Mad Max, man. And Mad Max, you go in there, you coming out there, he taking the whole teeth no matter what's going on with it. His solution was, I'm going to pull it.
So his job is to make sure you don't have to leave.
Right. He was going to pull everything. I know dudes went to Lompoc, man, the full said all 32 teeth, man, left with about 10, man, mess with Mad Max. But,
What about a wisdom tooth, though?
I've had one pulled in federal prison.
So Mad Max will pull out the wisdoms.
Shit, I had mine pulled, but it was giving me a problem at 30-something years old, Alex. I've only had 2 wisdom teeth pulled in my life. I still have all the rest of my teeth. When I had to go to the dentist, man, my wisdom teeth was growing in crooked at 30-something years old. And I never forget, it was a female dentist and a female dental assistant. And they couldn't get it. I mean, and she was just leaning all on me. I mean, she put her elbow. She said, "Mind about." She said, "I'm trying to get it." I said, "Do what you got to do," because it was hurt. She put her elbow on my chest, man. You know what I mean? And the other one, I mean, it took 2 of them, man, to pull this wisdom tooth, and I could just feel them just yanking on my. You know, it was wild. It was barbaric, but at the same time, man, they got that tooth up out of there, man.
Is that sometimes borderline malpractice? Because you should get a more professional dentist that has that experience. So obviously you needed either more. Did you need more, the numbing stuff?
Anesthetic. Yeah, I asked for some more of that. She actually gave it to me because it was just growing in. It hadn't even grew in, so she was saying she couldn't get a grip on it because it wasn't all the way in. And when it was growing in, it was pushing up against my other teeth. But I did feel like I was in somebody's garage, you know what I mean, in a back alley somewhere getting a tooth pulled. But they had all the professional equipment and all that. It just, because it was barely coming in, she couldn't get a good grip on it. And it was deeply rooted, you know, it was a problem, you know. But shit, I walked out of there with a hole in my mouth this big, man.
Now, it healed, I guess, 100%.
Yeah, eventually I did. I had a big old hole in my gums for a while, but it ended up healing. But I have seen dudes go out on medical furloughs. Situation, you know, because things happen. Kidney stones, gallstones, hernias, in certain situation they need to have surgery on. But these also were murder suspects, and they also were already sentenced and in prison. In the county facility, the county jail, waiting for pretrial, I've never heard of it happen.
Yeah, it seems like some guys use this as a tool just to get a different scene for, I don't know, a couple hours, whatever, you know. Because if, for example, YNW Melly, he's been sitting in the same county jail now for, I don't know, over a year, and he ain't seeing nothing but the same thing every day. It's sometimes a good feeling to just get on a bus somewhere and drive 3 or 4 miles to a facility to get your teeth looked at.
To be honest with you, it's more of a hassle than you think. Sometimes that little trip ain't even worth it, you know, because all the shackling you got to do, all the sitting in cells on concrete you got to do. You comfortable on the yards. You got everything set up, man. You know, it's almost like you know, you comfortable, you know, you live in here. So when you got to go through that transit, man, getting shackled up and, you know, escorted and, you know, it's not always, but I have seen a lot of guys though come through with those grills or come through with, you know, the gold caps and gold teeth and all these things. And I have seen a lot of dudes get that stuff removed after years go by, because you got to maintenance that stuff, you know.
So do they let you keep gold teeth while you're in custody?
If it's really implanted in you, like I know guys had their real teeth pulled and really, you know, they won't take those out. But a lot of these dudes had like bridges and covers and like a veneer type, it's in there and glued in, but this really whole bracket can come out if it loosens, like a bridge.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And those they won't replace and won't fix and none of that. Yeah.
But if it's just like a gold cover over your real teeth, they take that out.
Yeah.
Okay, because normally you're not allowed to have no jewelry, no anything on you.
But some of these dudes really got teeth, diamonds in their front teeth, and you know, and they really implant it. And they don't take those out, you know.
That must be crazy to be walking around a prison yard with your grill all blinged up.
And you know what? You see it a lot, especially coming from the guys either in the Bay or Tennessee and back that way. You know, it's common for them. You know, L.A. didn't really do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's common in Texas. You know what I mean? Those Texas dudes had them a lot. You know, so I mean, actually got their teeth pulled and put gold ones up in there. You know, I say that's stunting, man. Some things I mess with, I'm gonna mess with my choppers, man.
New Orleans is pretty popular.
Yeah, New Orleans is pretty popular with it, yeah.
I was shocked when I was in New Orleans and I saw the police with the teeth like that.
Oh, yeah? No, that's crazy. I ain't see no police.
I was like, wow, the police got
the popo got the grill? Yeah.
That's crazy. All right, YMW Melly is still waiting for trial right now. He's trying.
That speedy trial didn't work out for him, huh?
Well, there's all these other delays, man. So it ain't working out for him. So now he's waiting for this medical furlough, and I guess he's got to wait for it to get approved. How long does it usually take? Like if you file a paper today for a medical furlough, how long do they make you wait?
Well, you got to understand that, that's manpower, that's money. That's taking some people who not working today because you can't take staff from the prison. You got to have guys come in for overtime. You got to get the van going, so technically you making them spend money. That's where the delay come in at. You know what I mean? It's hard to get to the dentist, and you own the yard just to get to the regular dentist, let alone get out and get a transfer and get and get them to take you out. If the dentist on site deems that there's something need to get done, they'll get it done for you. But just regularly, man, I don't see it happening.
Oh, you think they're gonna deny his?
They're gonna deny his request. Yeah.
What if I don't know what type of teeth he got, but what if he got the permanent? No. He must have real teeth underneath because, you can still get an infection in your gum,
if
right?
It's not infected. If it's just irritating, they may see what. Like I said, they'll pull that shit out. We don't care how much you pay for. We gonna pull it out.
Yeah.
Now if it's an infection that they can't control, if it's some kind of situation that they say we just can't fix at this facility, but to be honest with you, man, some of the county facilities have some of the best equipment, up to date equipment around.
Oh, okay.
Well,
I think because he's got a little level of celebrity status, they might just give it to him so that down the line that no one can say he was mistreated and not given attention to a medical matter, even if it's a minor medical matter. Do you think that matters?
No, I think they're gonna say, man, this dude is a potential double murder.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's this dude don't need to go nowhere.
Okay. We'll find out next week. We'll give you guys an update on Streets and Scholars on the next episode, whether or not they granted his medical furlough. I'm gonna just go out on a limb and say, they're gonna give it to him. Okay. We'll see. Hey, your boy Rene Enriquez, boxer from Artesia, is a free man.
Oh, I was finna say, he still ain't got out yet?
And he's out.
Okay.
But we don't know where he's at.
Right, no doubt.
Probably in Boise, Idaho right now.
Ain't no telling where boxer at.
Living in a 2-story townhouse,
man,
in the middle of nowhere.
I mean, but I believe living in the middle of nowhere better than living in prison.
Oh, yeah. Wherever he's at, I'm sure he's happy, right?
Yeah. He got, like you say, he already took it on the chin and live with his sins, but I mean, he got to be elated, Yeah,
it doesn't matter if you put him in the middle of the desert somewhere, a guy that's been sitting in there since 1990, that's been 32 years, you got to be happy. What was it like when you first, I guess it was when you went to the halfway house, right? Mm-hmm. That's your first taste of freedom?
That was my first taste of freedom.
What is that feeling like after 8.5, almost 9 years of being in custody? Now you're just like, I could walk wherever I want to go now.
Well, it was crazy because, like I said, I didn't believe that they was going to open that door. They finally did. They kicked me out and they drove me had a van take me to the nearest bus station. So I got to but matter of fact, they didn't even take me to a bus station. They took me far enough where I could jump on the local bus. Now, already know I haven't been on a local bus, man, in 20 years. So I jumped on the bus and it just felt weird getting on the bus with people. I go from prison to... Now I'm on the bus with regular people, you know what I mean? And you forget the things that regular people do. Because people in prison don't come stand next to you, like right next to you. They don't sit next to you in the child hall. They don't, motherfucker on the bus gonna come sit right next to you, rub the elbow all over you and shit.
So you were dealing with levels of institutionalization still.
Yeah, but the thing about it is, the funny part is, I'm thinking I'm doing everything normal. Because in my mind, I never want people to know that I went to prison when I came home. I didn't want you to look at me per se and be like, okay, he been to prison. But I used to get laughed at because, they be, dude, people can see. You get to the bus station. I got to the Greyhound bus station, you know what I mean? And somebody, hey, man, welcome back, man. And I'm like, damn, man. You know what I mean? They just knew, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it was a sense of people are just moving around, going about their life, doing what they do every day. And no one's saying nothing to them. You know what I mean? You're not being looked at. You're not being, it's like you're free. It was wild,
Yeah, man. It's an incredible thing to hear when people are free. No matter how much time you did, whether you've been down for 5, 10 or 30, like Boxer. Yeah. So Boxer must be somewhere in an undisclosed location for his protection.
Yeah, with that as well, but I do wonder, like, what was his choice of? Because everybody got something they want to eat when they come home.
See, but Boxer had the privileges of eating good regardless.
Yeah.
We was in court one day and we found out he was eating shrimp and lobster.
Right.
So he's been eating good regardless.
Yeah, he probably didn't even have a special meal,
So yeah, man. My other question is, I thought about when Sammy the Bull got out and he was in protective custody. After a while, he didn't like it.
Yeah.
He didn't like the rules. You're free, but you're still under rules. I think there's a curfew and things like that.
Things, yeah.
At some point, Boxer's gonna feel the same way. Like, yo, I want to be really free.
No doubt, he's definitely gonna feel that way, and he gonna probably tell him the same thing Sammy and them told him. Hey man, hey, forget it. I'll put it on the line. I just believe that he's smart enough, and some of these dudes smart enough to know how to move around without being detected. I don't got, like you say, a whole task force out there trying to find these dudes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, it's probably 100 people ahead of him on the list. If somebody, looking for, you know what I mean? Because there's so many of them out there that didn't broke the code. You know what I mean? So he can go out there and live his regular life, man. It's just about, I don't know if he can go get a regular job in certain situations. It just seems like somebody's always going to, no matter where he goes, somebody's going to recognize Boxer.
I think all he got to do is throw on a hat and some shades.
So, and he can get away with it?
Yeah, because there's another Mexican mafia guy I personally know, and I meet up with him once in a while. He's an informant from a different generation, though, and he moves around L.A. like nothing.
Well, I'm a Boxer put on a hat and glasses because I'm the type of dude. I'm not staring up people up in the.
Yeah.
He probably can come sit right next to me at the hamburger stand, man, or walk right in the burger stand. I probably wouldn't even recognize.
No, not at all. Hey, I was on the train, the MTA train, and I saw two dudes. It was obvious they just got out of prison because they had the big baggy gray shorts that they wear on the prison yards. Right. And the socks was up high, and I told the two Mexican brothers, I was like, welcome home, and they was like, thanks.
Yeah.
So, but it was obvious based on their little outfit.
Their outfit,
They were basically wearing the typical thing you wear in a yard. Were you wearing anything that was obvious to prison?
No, I had some jeans came in, a regular shirt, but the thing about it was posture. I still get accused of, Mom, they still say, Daddy, let your shoulders down some. I'm like, yeah. They are. You know what I mean? And his posture is the way you look a man in the eyes at the grocery store when you just having a regular conversation. Most people don't do that. You know what I mean? And so it's a lot of telltale signs, man. And people laugh at you because they see you trying, but it's just written all over you. You know, the walk, you know what I mean? And you think you walking regular, but you could tell, man, I see these guys all the time when they fresh out, man. What they are also is they alert, Alex. They paying attention to everything that's moving around them, and all they doing is they a Krispy Kreme getting some donuts, you know what I mean? But they, anything moving, they, you know what I mean? So.
I remember our comedian Alex Thomas was telling me that he went to a prison to do a comedy show. And he said the hardest thing to do is make a whole bunch of dudes in prison laugh. He said that's when you know you're funny, if you can get some laughs there. So there is a level of, I guess, of seriousness with a lot of the brothers in there.
No doubt, plus like you say, man, they going through a lot, man. You got to realize the shit that they going through, man, losing family members. They ain't seen their daughters in 4 or 5 years. Certain situations, man, that they go through that make you hard mentally, And but don't get me wrong, don't let nobody fool you, man. You're gonna have some laughs in that. It wouldn't be right if you didn't have no joking and laughing and and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I never forgot that story he told me, but it is funny because it's a serious, like, facial expressions, the demeanor, guys in prison, and your job is to go over there and make them laugh. I think Paul Rodriguez, another comedian, he went to the prisons. When you was in the feds, did they ever allow people to come do entertainment and just be a part of the program there?
Well, see, what they did was they cut out all the funding for that. You know what I mean? So they wasn't opposed to it, but they cut out the funding. And therefore, a lot of the programs that those guys used to get, we didn't get those. So at the end of the day, man, it wasn't even about that they didn't want to. The warden would just come straight, look, this is my budget. They don't even fund those programs no more. I'm going to try to do the best I can to get y'all some things. Now, what they did do, and I was a part of it one year, was they did bring in some, for Black History Month, we pushed up on the warden, you know what I mean? Deep, the Bloods, Crips, Bay, Muslim, everybody, listen, we would like to do a Black History program. You know what I mean? Can you give us a conference room or give us the auditorium and we put on our, you guys can come in there and watch it, do whatever you want to do, because they always think you trying to have a meeting or strategize, you know what I mean, a prison break or some shit, you know what I mean? But we really wanted to do a Black History program, They actually, man, set it out for us, brought people in from the streets, to speak and, get a knowledge. And the one thing about it, we were surprised when the warden came in. We knew she would come in probably and just look around and see how it was going, because she knew she had some killers on the yard. You know what I mean? She knew she had some riders. So she came to the program, man, and she actually spoke. And when she spoke, Alex, we believed that she was just going to sit there and say things like, hey, I appreciate that all y'all getting together, even though we know y'all beefing, and to put on this program for Blackness. But what she got up there and said was she had to study twice as hard. She had to get 2 times more degrees than the white folks. She had to always be better than them in order to get into the position that she is now. Hey, blew us away, man. She didn't sugarcoat the shit, but they don't do the funding no more to like bring the comedy and bring the Johnny Cash and them used to go to the prison and perform. Yeah, they don't do it like that no more, just by funding purposes.
But that actually is important for the prison because it can keep inmates more relaxed. It could prevent more drama. When you bring some entertainment in, it keeps, it keeps things more orderly. But a lot of outsiders are like, fuck all that. They don't deserve entertainment. They don't deserve this. They don't deserve that.
Well, it's a lot of people who are willing to do it. They just don't want to do it for free.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And or like I say, the day that you do that, you do have to have overtime for correctional officers to make sure that you got extra security and things of this nature. And all that plays a role in money. I've sit there and heard, lieutenants and captains talk to the COs more about like scheduling shit. Like, no, I can't put you on the schedule because of, you know what I mean? No, we ain't having nobody work overtime. It's a business, you know what I mean? So if they could get that funding in there, I believe it's a lot of people that would still come in, man, and do those programs. Matter of fact, I just got a call 3 days ago. My little partner, Lynn, his mom like a sister to me, so I call him my nephew. He's from the mob. And Lynn just called me and was asking me about Skip. And was saying somebody that the prison was saying that Skip was trying to get a pro. So he was asking me, he was like, man, is that something legit? Who is Skip? And blah, blah. I say, no, if he can get a way to get up in there, bro, go to his program. It's a cool thing that he trying to do to get in there and speak to you guys about the shit that y'all talking to me about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I believe that it's still some programs that guys are going in there, but they're not getting paid. And, and the celebrities, performers and comedians, they want to feed, which is understandable. They got expenses,
No doubt. Now, I know Skip was going to the female prisons for a minute. When Skip used to share an office with me, he used to go every week. I believe it was it Norco? Is that Norco's a female prison?
Norco got a prison out there. Yeah, it was female.
Yeah, he used to go there every week with his program.
Okay.
Domestic violence, anger management, things of that sort. And I've always wanted to go into the prisons and do a program like maybe video editing or, using a camera. But, I don't know what the process is, and I don't know how welcoming or open they would be to it. But, San Quentin, there's a lot of programs in San Quentin because it's up there in the Bay, and there's a lot of universities that, they don't necessarily need to be paid because they're getting paid by the university anyways.
Yeah.
So I heard that San Quentin got mad programs.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You need those programs, though. Hey, listen, they call it rehabilitation.
No doubt.
Then they just said start lock their ass up. You don't worry about the rehabilitation part. They need to bring rehabilitation back, man, because these people are coming home. A lot of them aren't coming home.
Yeah. I got a topic here, man, that's pretty strange, man. Whitey Bulger, who at the time of his death in prison back in 2018 was 89 years old, but he was killed in his cell, most likely because he was a snitch.
Right.
He snitched on Italian mafia guys, and he snitched on people that would help his business grow. Right. He snitched on his competition.
No doubt.
And he had a personal relationship with an FBI agent named Robert Connolly. But he gets transferred. This is bizarre. He gets transferred from a federal prison in Florida to Hazelton prison in West Virginia. The guys that killed him, one of the guys is on the phone calling his mom, and he knows in advance that Whitey Bulger's about to get transferred into the prison, and a lot of the authorities are like, how did this guy know in advance? So my first question is, when you know that one of the homies just got convicted, he's about to hit the yard, do you guys ever get word before the guy lands on the yard that someone is actually coming to the yard?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because what they do is they go through transfer centers, or technically just say transferring from one prison to another. They go to transfer centers. A lot of information is being passed through those transfer centers. When I landed in Oklahoma, FDC, Oklahoma, going to Texas from LA, I ran into guys going to every prison in the country damn near. You can get a message just like that. Guys going to Marion, guys going to Leavenworth, guys going to, hey, homie, tell my homie such and such, you know, and it was the same way when homies come by and say, oh, UFG, hey, homie, the homie said, you know, so, and he might be at this institution for a while. I mean, he might be in transit for a while. Somebody get there before him, hey, the homie such and such is coming, you know, or somebody called a girl, hey, look, I got my transfer. They're going to send me to such and such. She tells somebody, they tell somebody, the word is out on the line. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, they do know sometimes like exactly where they going, and they tell people or run into people and things of that nature.
But they can keep it under wrap if they want to, right? They can
keep it under wrap if they want to, like me. You know, what happened with me was when I transferred from Victorville, no, from Lompoc to Oklahoma. I left Lompoc. I went to USP Victorville for a minute. Stayed there, went to Oklahoma for a minute. I was going to Texas, but I didn't tell my wife. I was just going to tell her when I got there, hey, I'm in Texas. You know what I mean? And we had the email system. When you transfer or leave a facility, they disconnect your email system. So when she got the email and said my email had been disconnected, she immediately go to the FBOP website. This motherfucker's in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
What is he doing there? So when I called, I still wasn't going to tell her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And she was like, what the hell you doing in Oklahoma? Because I landed at a different facility. So people can track if they, you know, because wherever you land, BOP is public information.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So she didn't know where I was going, but she knew I was in Oklahoma the moment I called.
But she can only look that up after you've already arrived.
Right,
yeah.
right. So it's like I said, that's a different situation, but I hadn't told nobody where I was going, you know.
Now, this guy that was part of killing Whitey Bulger, Sean McKinnon, they got him recorded on the phone call talking to his mom, and he's like telling his mom, Rusty Bulger's about to arrive in our prison tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And he's basically telling his mom in so many words, we're about to plot on his ass.
Right.
How the heck would Sean McKinnon know not only that Whitey is coming, but he's coming tomorrow?
That was the key word you said, and I heard you say tomorrow. As soon as you said tomorrow, I said, oh, a CEO told him that.
Damn.
Yeah, CEO told him that because they going to get the paperwork. You know, R&D going to get the paperwork before they even get there to know who's coming weeks in advance. So they know who's coming down the pipeline. And somebody probably was cool, one of the CEOs, and they like, hey, Whitey coming, dog. Y'all get ready.
Man, this sounds like a setup because Whitey was only at Hazelton for 12 hours before he was killed.
Man.
Like, not even a day.
I didn't know it was that fast.
12 hours he was killed by, Sean McKinnon was the lookout. A guy named Fotios, Freddy, Geas, Geas, who's 55 years old, and a guy named Paul DeCologero, 48 years old, went into the cell because they got a camera too that was on the cell, but you can't see what's going on in the cell.
Right.
You just see these two guys go in.
Right.
And they beat him to death.
Yeah.
Now, I believe that it has to do with, and in the article I read, they said, we don't know what the motive is. Isn't that crazy?
Man.
What's the motive?
Right.
But because Paul's last name is DeCologero, which is an Italian name, I'm thinking that they got the word that, hey, somebody from the mob said, go ahead and do that.
Oh, no doubt. And you'd be surprised, though, had some of these in prison murder cases, Alex, because they couldn't see exactly in that cell. You didn't exactly see him murder. You know, you seen him go in, you seen him come out. You know he did it. But when you talking about a murder beyond a reasonable doubt, you know, no one saw what actually happened. You know, did Whitey beat himself? Of course not. But I mean, it's still some kind of sometime they, it be technicalities on convicting those murders.
Now, I know the answer to this question, but I got to ask it anyways. Is Whitey Bulger, being a man almost 90 years old, get a pass on snitching in the prison system?
The rules is the rules. You know what I mean? And
I mean, a fragile man
I got you.
that can barely walk.
It was a statement.
Yeah.
They say, we don't care how old you are.
Yeah.
You did it, you're going to pay the consequence. Whitey could have died of natural causes a month later, man, you know. But them dudes stuck by the code. They stuck by the rules. Bro, you did that. You don't get a pass. You going to meet your maker today. You know what I mean? And that's I mean, I know it's sad to say or sound like, you know, man, that's some bullshit. But, hey, man, when they going by them rules, man, that code of conduct supposed to be kept, and they kept it.
Yeah, and, you know, there's a lot of people that are probably listening now to the Streets and Scholars. If they don't understand these rules, but I'm sure there's a few people there that understand that what Whitey did comes with consequences.
No doubt, you know, and I see comments on everybody's platform, and I could tell who's the people who are some of my outsiders don't have no idea about the mental aspect of what, you know, what's going in the mind of a dude who this is his life. You know, this is a guy from the street. This is their rules. You know what I mean? And them guys stuck to the code 100%, man. Didn't care how old he was, didn't care how fragile he was. Dude, you did what you did. You got to pay for that today.
Yeah. And I was looking up one of the killers named Fotios Geas, Geas. He was sentenced to life without parole in the feds. So it doesn't really matter for him. It's not going to change the course of his life, right?
No, not at all.
But it can put him in a facility that has less privileges, though, right?
No doubt, less privileges, less amenities. You know what I mean? And but you'll be surprised at how often it's happened that we don't hear about it. And sometimes guys, they don't even leave the yard. They might go to the hole for 6 months or something like, and come right back to the yard. You know, what are you going to do to this guy? You know what I mean? And I never forgot, I was going to the hole in Victorville, man, one time. And they was like, well, Thornton, you going to the hole? I was, take me to jail then. You know what I mean? And you, where are you taking me? All you doing is taking me to another part of this. I'm already in prison. You taking me to another part of the facility. You still going to feed me. You still, I may not be able to go to the yard. I may not be able to play chess or spades for a few months. But in actuality, I mean, you know, he still got to do that life sentence anyway. So
yeah, but there are a lot of people that don't want to end up in like Florence, Colorado, ADX in the basement somewhere in the dark for 23 and a half hours a day. That's just unpleasant living, even if you're in prison.
No doubt, but for the people who live by them rules, Alex, you know, those rules and rules and everything in life was set to be stood on. And like I say, you know, they stood on those rules. I understand that. You know, people don't understand the hardship that Whitey Bulger caused on people and their family. You know, Whitey Bulger wasn't no innocent kid, you know what I mean, who was 89 years old. This dude done put hits on people allegedly before, you know what I mean? You know, so, hey, man, when I heard that, you know, it's sad to say I'll say, okay, people are still standing on the values of their code of conduct, you know.
Why do you think it took 4 years for them to, I don't know if they're putting charges on these three guys, but they've identified them publicly, and it looks like that a couple of these guys are going to be going back to court 4 years after they killed Whitey Bulger.
No doubt. And they've been back on the yard,
yeah.
For sure. You know, they've been chilling. They waiting for a transfer to go tell the judge whatever they're going to tell them. Give me rack it back up. But that's when the investigation come to see these cameras can't see actually what happened, didn't they? So they have to go back and be tedious about they had to go back and get that phone call. It might have took them years to, you know, get certain information because they had to get warrants and stuff like that to get certain things. But I don't know why it took 4 years, but at the same time, it seemed like they're ready to go send them back up in there and see if they can get a conviction.
It looks like Paul DeCologero actually had a release date of 2026.
Damn.
But this might give him.
Might derail that, yeah.
Do you think that killing an old man can give you a life sentence in the feds, or do you think they just give him another 5 or 10 years?
Well, you know what, depending on what kind of evidence they feel they have, they don't feel like they can convict him, they will offer him 5 more years, 6 more years, 10 more years. You know, if they really feel like I say, a murder, you still have to be beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yeah, but it's pretty clear. These two guys walk in the cell.
Doubt.
They come out. The COs go in there. Whitey is dead.
But that's saying 2 men walk into an alley. 3 men walk in there. 2 men come out. 1 is dead. Alex, you still can't say that we seen this dude hit him like this or this dude hit him like that. It's obvious what happened.
Yeah.
But on the street, guess what happened? Dude gonna get a manslaughter, or he gonna take that. They gonna give him that deal. Hey man, take this 19, take this 15, and because they can't just prove because we couldn't see it. You know what I mean? And you can assume all you want, but beyond a reasonable doubt, you don't have that. You know.
Well, I think they're also going to use Sean McKinnon's phone call to his mom's.
Oh, no doubt.
Saying Whitey's coming to our yard tomorrow.
No doubt, no doubt.
So, and he's part of the whole conspiracy, man. But before we wrap up, man, I wanted to at least get your thoughts on Young Thug. He was denied bail for a third time. And again, they used his lyrics against him to deny the bail. And also there was a comment about he lives close to the airport. He's got access to private planes. And Your Honor, this is coming from the prosecutor, we think he's a flight risk. Like, does anyone really believe that Young Thug is going to try to escape this case and go somewhere that no one is going to be able to find him?
No, even the attorney put out there that was speaking on his behalf put out there that they would even allow that, police sit outside his house or they offered everything they could.
Yeah.
Long as he can be in his own house during his time, y'all could surround this place. You know what I mean? And bring him back and forth to court at will, but the judge wasn't having none of it. Even though he did say he didn't believe he was a flight risk. He didn't actually own a plane, you know what I mean? But I believe they just didn't want to let that kid go, man, because they just, based on the evidence that you heard him say, they had proffer statements. He said in those proffer statements that it's people in those proffer statements saying that he's the leader of the gang, he's dangerous, and if he get wind that they said something, he'd try to kill him.
Yeah, man, they're using the lyrics of his song "Ooh," which is spelled EWW. The very last line of the song, he says something about FNN put him in a wheelchair. That line is being used against Young Thug. And then there's another song called Anybody that they used against him in these bail hearings. And then we learned that there are other writers of these songs.
Right.
Nicki Minaj was a co-writer. So the defense attorney is saying, look, Young Thug is not even the writer of these songs.
He didn't even write this.
So how can you hold these against him? But at the end of the day, the judge didn't care. Let me play a quick little clip of what the judge had to say, man. Let's see here.
There's additional pleadings that were filed in this particular case on motion to reconsider bond. It was filed on behalf of Mr. Williams. I have considered those arguments under the new indictment of 22 SC 13572, even though they were filed under indictment 22 SC 182273. And I've considered the proffers made by the state. I've considered the arguments of the defense. At this point in time, though, Mr. Adams and Mr. Steele, I am still not convinced that that what you've argued, what you've continued, or what you've argued anew and taking into account what I have heard already, I still believe that it is the court's decision that the four factors under consideration that I'm going to deny bond at this point in time.
All right, man.
It is not lost on me that your clients...
Let me turn that off. So there you heard it, man. The judge said, I don't really care what you say, how you say it. At this time, I'm denying bond a third time, F.
He said it nicely, though. But, hey, he like you say, man, the guys with those proffer statements, it's obvious that he was told on. It's obvious that some information is out there that he doesn't know that's out there yet. He's going to find out in trial, though, believe it. And so they made some remarks about him that made the judge not feel comfortable with letting him out.
Yeah, man. It's very clear that someone is going to be telling. I don't think they've identified that person. And Young Thug's attorneys, I think they're doing a pretty decent job. He's got a brother named Keith Adams and another guy named Brian Steele. And we'll just wait and see what happens, man. At some point, they got to give him bail. But right now, this is the third time he's been denied. And where can they find you, F, man, if they want to come check you out?
Man, I'm over there at FG Unleashed on YouTube, man. And on Instagram, I'm over there at FGeneral1. And tap in. I got a few new videos up, man. Tap in and see what you think about it.
Street TV over here, Alex Alonso 101. Thanks for tapping in with another fire episode of Streets and Scholars.